Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads, welcome back to another video and a warm welcome to another edition of Looking Back at the Booker. Today we're going to do something slightly different because this video we're going to be looking at the Lost Man Booker Prize of 1970. What is this madness, I hear you cry? Didn't you cover 1970 in your last video? Well yes I did, but this was prior to a rule change. So books up until 1970 were only considered from the previous year's publication until Booker, or the Man Booker Committee, changed the rules to include books that were published in the year of the prize. So consequently, all books published in 1970 were never considered for the Booker Prize until a keen-eyed literary agent called Peter Strauss was wondering why one of his favourite books hadn't been shortlisted. That book was Fifth Business by Robertson Davies, and he discovered that in fact no books from that were published in 1970 had ever been considered for the Booker Prize. So he took this to the Booker Prize committee and said, look, we've got to have a Lost Man Booker Prize. They agreed with him, and 22 books were drawn up. A long list of 22 books was drawn up, and this was whittled down to 6 books that were to, and out of that 6 books, the public were to decide who the winner would be. Now, one of the interesting facts about this shortlist is that out of the 6 novelists that were shortlisted, 4 of them were already dead, and the eventual winner had been dead for more than 30 years. So let's have a look at the initial judging panel that had that drew up the list of 22 long-listed books, and they were Rachel Cook, Katie Derham and Tobias Hill. Okay, so let's have a look at the shortlisted books. So the first book on the shortlist for the Lost Man Booker Prize is a book called The Birds on the Trees. This is written by Nina Baldwin, and it's the expulsion from school of their eldest son shatters the middle-class security of Maggie, a writer, and Charlie, a journalist. Since childhood, Toby has been difficult and self-absorbed, but the threat of drug taking and his refusal or inability to discuss his evident unhappiness disturbs them sufficiently to seek professional help. Veering between private agony and public cheerfulness, Maggie and Charlie struggle to support their son and cope with the reactions and advice of friends and relatives. Noted for the accuracy with which she reaches into the heart of relationships, Nina Baldwin here excels in revealing the painful, intimate truths of a family in crisis. Toby's situation is explored with great tenderness, while Maggie's grief and self-recrimination are rigorously, if compassionately, observed. It is a novel that raises fundamental questions about parents and their children and offers tentative hope, but no tidy solutions. So that book seems really good and is still obviously quite relevant today. The second book on the shortlist was Shirley Hazzard, The Bay of Noon. The scene is Naples, against whose ancient and fantastic background the modern action takes place. Among the protagonists is Jenny, young and pretty, who has come to Naples in flight from a sombre drama, unaware that a larger drama awaits her there. She has an introduction to Neapolitan women, and one day she idly follows it up. This is her leap through the looking glass. The next book on the shortlist is Fire from Heaven by Mary Renault. And this is about Alexander the Great, and it says here, in the first novel of her stunning trilogy, Mary Renault vividly imagines the life of Alexander the Great, the charismatic leader whose drive and ambition created a legend. Alexander's beauty, strength and defiance were apparent from birth, but his boyhood honed those gifts into the makings of a king. And Gore Vidal described this as the Alexander trilogy is one of the 20th century's most unexpectedly original works of art. So that seems interesting. The next book on the Lost Man Booker shortlist is The Driver's Seat by Muriel Spark. All the Muriel Spark books have recently been republished by Canongate, and this one is Lissay is thin, neither good looking nor bad looking. One day she walks out of her office, acquires a gaudy new outfit, adopts a girlier tone of voice and heads to the airport to fly south. On the plane she takes a seat between 2 men. One is delighted with her company, the other is deeply perturbed. So begins an unnerving journey into the darker recesses of human nature. Now, I've heard over the years, I've heard some really good things about Muriel Sparks' writing, and in particular this book. The next book on the Lost Man Booker shortlist was The Vivisector by Patrick White. And this one says, Hertel Duffield is born into a poor Australian family. They adopt him out to the wealthy Courtneys, who are seeking a companion for their hunchbacked daughter, Rhoda. And the final book, and the eventual winner of the Lost Man Booker Prize of 1970, was Troubles by J.G. Farrell. Now, as I may have mentioned earlier, this came 30 years after J.G. Farrell sadly passed away. And if he'd have won this in his lifetime, he would have been the first novelist to win the Booker Prize twice, because J.G. Farrell went on to win the Booker Prize in 1973 for his novel The Siege of Krishnapur. But this particular book we're concerning ourselves with now is called Troubles. The novel concerns the arrival of Englishman Major Brendan Archer, recently discharged from the British Army, at the Majestic Hotel on the Wexford coast in South East Ireland in 1919. Both the hotel and the town in which it is situated are fictional. Archer is convinced he is engaged, though sure he has never actually proposed, to Angela Spencer, the daughter of Edward Spencer, the elderly owner of the hotel. She has written to him since they met in 1916 while on leave from the trench warfare on the Western Front. The Spencers are Anglo-Irish Protestants, strongly unionist in their attitudes towards Ireland's ties to the United Kingdom. Arthur functions as a confused observer of the dysfunctional Spencer family, representing the Anglo-Irish and the local Catholic population. As the novel progresses, social and economic relationships break down, mirrored by the gentle decay of the hotel. So that one seems quite an interesting read. I might check that one out myself. That was it. That was the Lost Man Booker Prize of 2010. 6 novels that were eventually considered for the Man Booker Prize. Whatever you're doing this week, enjoy your books, and I'll see you back here next time for another BookTube video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.